The sky over Vienna was a shade of silvery grey, rain gently misting the glass dome of the Stotsuper Grand Hall, a place that had hosted kings, queens, and the most elite names in music inside. The air crackled with energy and whispers, velvet. Curtains trembled slightly as the final rehearsal for the World Youth Symphony Gala prepared to begin. Backstage, teenage musicians tuned their instruments, dressed in black with stiff collars and shaky hands. Among them stood Elora Quinn, a 16-year-old girl in a modest dress, her long braid tied with a soft blue ribbon. Her pale eyes, blind from birth, saw nothing of the grandeur around her. But what she lacked in sight, she made up for with something the others couldn't describe presence. Elora stood beside a black Steinway Grand, her fingers lightly grazing the keys, her white cane folded beside her. The hall was nearly empty except for a few crew members and other performers waiting their turn. Elora, her music teacher, Mrs. Halvorsen, whispered behind her, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" "I've never been more sure," Elora replied softly. "I don't need to see them. I just need to feel the music." And then, footsteps, polished, sharp, confident, dot the unmistakable entrance of Victor Kale, one of the most revered and feared classical pianists in the world. Dressed in a sharp Italian suit, silver streaking his jet-black hair, Kale entered like a thunderclap. All chatter ceased. He was the opening performer and star guest for the gala, known for his genius and perfectionism and his intolerance from mediocrity. As Kale approached the stage, his eyes narrowed at the sight of Elora near the piano. "Excuse me," he said, voice echoing with authority. "What is she doing here?" A technician muttered, "She's one of the featured students." Kale scoffed. Featured, a blind girl, at a world-level gala. Elora turned slightly toward his voice. Her fingers didn't leave the keys. "I'm here to play, sir." Kale stepped closer, studying her like a flaw on a diamond. "You can't even read the sheet music." "She doesn't need to," said Mrs. Halvorsen. "She has perfect pitch. She memorizes everything she hears." Kale laughed. "Dry and sharp. Music is not just notes, it's discipline, structure. Blind emotion doesn't win standing ovations." Few students snickered nervously. Elora's cheeks reddened. "Let her play," Mrs. Halvorsen said, standing tall. Kale raised an eyebrow. "Very well. Let's see what a blind child can show a world-class pianist." Later that evening, the audience filled the grand hall. Crystal chandeliers reflected soft golden light over hundreds of guests, critics, patrons, musicians, diplomats. The air smelled of roses, wood polish, and expectation. Victor Kale performed first. He played Beethoven's Appassionata, every note executed with robotic precision, his fingers flawless as ever. The audience clapped politely respectful, but not moved. After several student performances, the announcer stepped forward. "Our next performer is Elora Quinn, age 16. She will be performing an original composition titled Requiem of Light." A few raised eyebrows. Original composition. That was rare for students, especially blind students. Elora took slow steps to the piano. She tapped the floor with a cane, found the bench and sat. The lights dimmed. The spotlight rested gently on her. She placed her hands over the keys, and then silence. 30 seconds of silence. The audience shifted uncomfortably. And then music. The first notes were so delicate they felt like falling petals. A simple melody drifted into the hall like a lullaby. Then it grew, one hand dancing over higher octaves, while the other grounded it in depth and sorrow. She played as if the piano had a heartbeat. The music was unlike anything heard that evening. It wasn't showy. It wasn't technical. It was raw, pain and wonder, loneliness and hope. Each chord told a story. Her fingers trembled not with fear but feeling. In the audience, jaws dropped. A woman wiped her tears, a child sat frozen. Even the technicians backstage leaned in, forgetting their cues, and Victor Kale. He was speechless. He had heard millions of performances. He had judged hundreds of competitions, but this was the kind of music that reminded people why they believed in art. When the final note faded, there was another long silence, and then thunderous applause. People stood, chairs scraped. Hands clapped like waves crashing. Some cheered, some cried. Elora, unaware, simply bowed. Backstage, chaos erupted. Reporters scrambled. Organizers were stunned. But Elora sat quietly with her cane in her hand, sipping water, as if nothing had happened. Kale approached her. He seemed different now, less a storm, more a man. "I owe you an apology," he said, lowering his voice. "I let your blindness blind me to your gift." Elora smiled faintly. "Music doesn't care what I see. It only cares what I feel." Kale paused, then knelt before her and kissed her hand. "That performance, it changed me." By morning, her video had gone viral. Social media exploded. "Blind girl stuns world with original piano piece. Watch until the end, she will break your heart." Even Victor Kale wept. Offers came flooding in. World tours, record labels, interviews on national television. But Elora turned most of them down. Instead, she opened a foundation with Mrs. Halvorsen, the Requiem Project, dedicated to teaching music to blind and disabled children around the world. A year later, in the same hall where she'd once been mocked, Elora stood as the youngest ever headliner of the gala. Kale introduced her personally, calling her the soul the inner never saw coming. This time, her eyes were lifted to the audience not because she could see them, but because she could finally feel their hearts, and in that single, breathtaking performance, the blind girl no one believed in lit up the world. Forever.